TIC, good afternoon. Well, you know, the legislature's been in session for a couple months. Joining us right now is the guy we like to talk to, State Senator Rob Sampson. He's the one protecting the people's interests against big government, and we need more of them. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Are you guys busy up there still?
Oh, yeah. It's we're getting down to the last couple of weeks. The last day of session is May 8th. So tomorrow will be the final 2 weeks. It's been pretty light so far. We've been in, 2 or 3 days a week, aside from committee meetings and so forth, but 2 or 3 days a week in the Senate session. Mm-hmm. And we just finished up early today. The House is still in. I just walked outside and getting a little fresh air and some nice sunshine. But, the House is still in, and we'll be back in tomorrow in the Senate.
So when you walk outside, are you saying that's how you know the House is still in session because you see all the cars, or what?
I just walked downstairs from the Senate and noticed that there were still plenty of people and lobbyists walking about. And
it's the lobbyists.
Yep, the building is definitely full. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Todd. I mean, you can say what you want about lobbyists, but it's nice to see the Capitol filled with people again. Mm-hmm. The last couple of years, since the pandemic, there was not that many folks actually visiting the state capitol because they were being restricted and refused access to their lawmakers, which I thought was a tremendous injustice. But it's nice to see that things are more or less back to normal and there's people there.
Wait, is it all the way or somewhere indiscernibly close?
I would say it's indiscernibly close. And there's no restrictions, no mask requirements, none of that kind of stuff. So people are back actively visiting, both floors of the state capitol, the House and Senate floor, because for a whole year, maybe almost 2 years, the Senate restricted access, to the second floor. It was deserted. It was terrible.
It's are there any permanent changes from COVID, since we're talking about it, that they've taken advantage of the changes and just quietly kept some things forever?
Oh, certainly. Hard for me to pinpoint exactly what those things are, but there are numerous rules that were adopted as a result. I mean, I would say the number one thing that affects not just state government, but municipal government too, was the adoption of the ability for local meetings to be held in hybrid or remote fashion instead in person. And I've always had a problem with that. I was certainly the loudest person trying to block that from happening, because I believe, members of the public have a right to actually see their representatives face to face. It's a lot different, to be able to, have to face your constituents maybe as a Board of Ed member, when there's, angry parents in the audience and stepping up to the podium than to be on a TV screen.
Yes. When the distance is indiscernible, it could be 100 yards or 100,000 miles. You just don't know the difference.
Right. Yeah, I think people absolutely deserve access to their elected officials. I think that's one of the reasons why our system works. You only have a representative government if those representatives truly feel that they are, beholden to the people that elect them.
Do you feel our system still works?
Certainly, although it doesn't work as well as it could, and I think that's in large part because there's a lot of apathy in the world, and fewer people are truly invested in what's happening. And I would say that's probably the biggest criticism of the job that I have personally, is that I think it's unfortunate that not enough people are engaged. I really wish I was doing the work of a state senator, knowing that my entire community, that the people that I serve are actually paying attention, and that they know what I do every day, and they know the debates that are going on at the state capitol, and can make significant input into the decisions that are made. But it's a very small number of people that are truly engaged.
We're talking to State Senator Rob Sampson from Wolcott. Yeah, I would imagine that much of your time is spent trying to find a way to penetrate the consciousness of busy citizens who aren't familiar with what's going on in state government, but really need to know.
Absolutely. In fact, I spend the majority of my time trying to proactively teach people about how our system works and the issues that are facing our state government, and will have some impact on my neighbors. I write a column every month. I'm here talking to you on the radio. I mean, to me, that's much more important than the debates that we have in Hartford, partly because the debates that we're having in Hartford are already more or less predetermined.
You mean they're not going to influence outcomes?
Yes. I mean, I don't want to suggest that somehow any particular lawmaker, including somebody like me, who's a very vocal member of the minority, cannot influence outcomes because we do every day. We have an impact on what happens. I manage to, prevent bills from being heard just by the mere fact that I file an amendment on a bill and they know that I'm going to talk for several hours might prevent it from ever being called.
The worst penalty.
Right. Oh, we have to listen to Sampson again. Oh, my God. So we definitely have an impact. But what I'm saying is that the overarching direction of the state is not going to change over these, few bills here and there. The Democrats have an agenda, and they're going to impose it on the people of Connecticut, whether I'm debating them, till all hours of the morning or not. And the only thing that stops that is the public being involved. And,
yes.
And there's a few examples. We always use the same ones, tolls and, the EV issue has been another good one. But we need people really invested in a lot more than that.
Is the EV thing coming out the right way? Is that not happening?
So far, so good. Although I do believe there is still a bill that is alive and well that made it out of the Environment Committee and has been scheduled. It's on the calendar to be called in the House and Senate. Mm-hmm. And that's the bill that you've probably heard about that doesn't truly enact a ban on gas-powered cars immediately, but it sets up the framework for basically a bureaucracy to be created that could ultimately achieve that goal. And that's possibly even more dangerous than a legislative change, which, ultimately the people would be able to replace their lawmakers and maybe undo. But once you create a bureaucracy, as well as I do that it's very hard to. Yeah, look at the Pura situation. Pura is the state bureaucracy that effectively approves the electricity and utility rate increases, and they're one step separated from the actual elected representatives, and therefore they give those representatives cover when they create policies to drive up rates. They don't actually have to raise the rates themselves. They just blame it on Pura. And that's dangerous. I foresee that that's happening in that EV case, and I know it's happening in many other aspects of the state government.
Is there anything else besides the idea of banning gas-powered cars that where there's some consciousness amongst voters that is penetrating the consciousness of elected representatives who are nervous about something they're planning to do or they're being pressured to do?
I would like to say yes, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, I know what the big issues are in the minds of the people of Connecticut, but they haven't really broken through to impacting the state government. One thing that I've been hammering away at recently, although I've been talking about this issue for a decade, but it's illegal immigration and the impact on the state of Connecticut. The border is not just a national issue. The fact is that the state of Connecticut may be worse than any other state in attracting illegal immigrants by offering, significant benefits. We give out driver's licenses. You probably know that there's a bill this year to take off the drive-only language from the actual driver's license to make it indistinguishable from a regular driver's license. They've got that, plus there's all kinds of access to state benefits. In the state of Connecticut, Todd, legal aliens are eligible for any state benefit than any other citizen is eligible for. The only thing that they're restricted from is things that have a federal funded component. But ultimately, that means almost every state benefit, legal aliens are participating in. And this is a drain on our economy. And almost every day we're witnessing, new news stories. There was a news story yesterday out of Boston that a Honduran national was captured again after he had already been released after assaulting a minor female. This kind of stuff is going to continue as long as our politicians are getting away with these policies that encourage illegal immigration. We need to change that.
And do you see any resistance growing to it or any awareness amongst voters that there's something that they need to stop?
I think it's a big issue among voters, for sure. And I suspect it's going to be a big issue in the national election. But I don't think it's anything that's really raised any significant alarms here at the state capitol, despite my best efforts. But I can tell you, Todd, that, when I put out my own, social media posts and, I'm on X and Facebook and Instagram and all those places, I will tell you that when I put out posts regarding illegal immigration, I get some of the most vocal responses. Mm-hmm. So I do feel like this is something that is in the minds of Connecticut voters. And really, I've been encouraging my Republican colleagues to latch onto it because I think it's an important issue for us. And I think it's one that taps into so many things. It taps into the affordability of our state just because of the drain on our economy. But it also impacts crime. And we know we have a big crime problem in the state. So, I think it's affecting us in ways where it's maybe not immediately perceptible, but it's definitely happening.
Well, the energy is there, and maybe what's needed is a national focus on the issue, which might come during the presidential cycle, after the two candidates have their party's nominations towards the end of the summer. Maybe the fall will carry that kind of volatility that all of a sudden the Democrats might have to answer for a lot of the destruction that they've done.
Right. Yeah, and the Democrats' plan, I think, this election cycle on a national level, and I think certainly on a state level, is to focus on things like abortion. They have a bill before the Connecticut legislature that I've had some contact with because it went through my committee that has to do with basically changing the Constitution to protect not only abortion rights up until birth, but also to protect gender-affirming care. Mm-hmm. Which I would not describe in those terms. I think it's perverse and deceitful practice. But the fact of the matter is that they're running on that issue, and Republicans historically have been afraid to debate the subject, and I think that that's a mistake on their part because it's the Democrats that have the radical position. Republicans may vary in whether they're pro-choice or pro-life. But the fact of the matter is Connecticut is a pretty,
middle of the road.
Place. Yeah, when it comes to abortion. And the Democrats want to advance policies that are really extreme. Abortions up into including at birth, I think is just a horrific idea. And I think most citizens, even people that identify as pro-choice, are not in favor of that. And we should just go back on the Democrats and challenge them on those issues.
Absolutely. To have that language out there during an election year, that's really dangerous.
Yeah. I've been writing articles and trying to encourage my colleagues, in the Republican Party at least, to embrace that view. And I think they're coming around a little bit. I'm happy to report that I think Senate Republicans is definitely improved under our new leadership. I think we are sticking together and, being marginally more conservative in our actions. And I'm very pleased by that. I'm tugging and pulling all the time to try and get our party to stand on principle.
It does seem more activist.
Yes, we've been holding press conferences, taking the Democrats to task on a number of issues, whether it's crime. I held a press conference with our leader, Steve Harding, just recently on the subject of elections. And really, that's another inexcusable issue that the Democrats really should have to answer for in this November's elections, which is that they've done absolutely nothing to address what is a clear problem, which, we all saw on film, the Bridgeport issue with Wanda and company. Yeah, that's a direct result of Democrat policies that have really opened up mail-in voting without any security protocols and protections. And I've been hammering that home and, holding press conferences, like I mentioned, and offering amendments. And yet the Democrats, they seem content to do nothing about it.
Well, that's how they want it. They want it to have holes they can drive any size truck through. Yeah,
and they plan on doing that. There's no question. And I'm hopeful that the press it comes around to see that they are just, willfully or knowingly ignorant of the situation and don't want to address it.
State Senator Rob Sampson, thank you for taking the time. We'll talk again soon.
It is always my pleasure, Todd. Thank you for having me.
All righty.